November 28 through December 1st, 1943 began the Tehran Conference. President Roosevelt, Prime Minister Churchill, and Premier Stalin met in Tehran, Iran, to strengthen the cooperation between the U.S., Britain, and the USSR in World War II. At the conference, agreements were made for the timings to attack Germany. The meeting also stressed the need for peace between the United Nations, and they all agreed upon keeping Iran's independence. The immense scope of the Allied preparation was perhaps the greatest thing the Allies had going for them. The Allies created a new headquarters staff known as Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, or SHAEF. SHAEF is made up of 6 of the best officers the Allies had. General Eisenhower is one of them. General Eisenhower was put in charge. He had the task of organizing around 1 million combat troops. The transportation was carried out by more than 11,000 fighters and bombers, which dropped 195,000 tons of bombs during more than 200,000 runs. The selection of a site for the invasion was critical to its success and was perhaps the Allies' biggest advantage, since the Germans were forced to guess the location and had to defend everywhere.
The sun has now set upon D-Day, the day of destiny. The Allies needed a new route to attack Germany from, so they chose to go through France. The Allies gathered a force of nearly 3 million British, American, and Canadian troops, led by General Dwight D. Eisenhower. To mislead Germany, we formed a decoy army and naval force to attack Calais that they knew the Germans would uncover and defend against. Hitler sent most of his troops to Calais in response to the false assault to defend the northern beaches. While Hitler's troops were occupied farther north, the Allies secretly attacked Omaha, Juneau, Gold, Utah, and Sword Beach on June 6th, the setback date of June 5th due to weather conditions. The Allied paratroopers invaded at 0100 hours to cut off communication lines for the oncoming troops. At 3 a.m., the troops loaded the ships, and by 6:30 a.m., the main attack force was sent in to attack the mainland.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you're about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year, 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940 through 41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage and devotion to duty and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking. Signed, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Oh, 6:30 hours. The assault waves began to touch down. The situation in Omaha is the worst. The beach was a tangle of obstructions. Concrete cones, slanted poles, logs tilted seaward with mines lashed to their tips, and steel rails welded together at angles and so strongly set into the beach that their ends would stave into the bottom of landing craft. Unknown to the Americans, the highly disciplined 352nd Infantry Division manned many of those fortifications. The troops could hear the steady beat of enemy fire on the ramp as they approached the beach. Most landing craft grounded on the sandbar 50 to 100 yards out, and the men waded in. The water was whipped by automatic weapons fire as the men struggled through the neck-deep water. Some dove underwater or went over to the side to escape the fire of the machine gun. When they finally did reach the shore, they faced another 200 yards or more of open sand before reaching cover at the seawall. 0638, perhaps the worst area in Omaha, was Dog Green, directly in front of strong points guarding the Beerville Draw, and under heavy flanking fire from emplacements to the west. Company C of the 2nd Rangers landed on this sector. One of the 6 LTAs foundered about 1,000 yards offshore, and passing Rangers saw men jumping overboard and being dragged down by their loads. The remaining craft ground into water 4 to 6 feet deep, about 30 yards short of the outward band of obstacles. Starting off the craft in 3 files, center file first, and the flank files peeling left and right. The men were enveloped in accurate and intense fire from automatic weapons. The troops attempted to dive underwater or dropped over the sides into the surf over their heads. Mortar fires scored 4 direct hits on one LCA, which disintegrated. When the survivors reached the sand, some found they could not hold and came back into the water for cover, while others took refuge behind the nearest obstacles. While Omaha Beach suffered heavy fire from machine gun emplacements, the other beaches received significantly less German resistance. In preparation for the other beach invasions, the massive Allied naval bombardment ceased at 6:10 to allow landing troops to make their way up to the beaches. At 6:30, troops landed at Utah and Omaha Beach. Utah met only light resistance. At 7:25, troops landed at Gold Beach and accomplished all main objectives by 11:19. There was strong German resistance in La Hamel, but it was all eventually quelled by 16:30. Also at 7:25, soldiers landed on Fort Beach, which went roughly according to plan. At 7:35 to 7:45, the landing at Juno Beach was 20 minutes late, but all Canadian objectives were met by 10 o'clock. Well, after doing all the objectives at all the beaches were accomplished, and Allied forces held a new strong point against Germany. Boom!